Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Breckland Planning for today. Oh, I've got a bit of an echo. Echo. I sound like I'm down in a well somewhere. Okay. Oh. Well, it's going to have to go. No, because it's the main unit. Okay. That's awful, isn't it? Never mind.
Somebody got the somebody logged in and got the volume on.
Well, it could have. Someone logged in with volume.
No.
No? Oh. I'm trying to think what that reggae song. There's a reggae song that started like this. Back by the barrel, don't mess about with being live streamed. Okay, well, we'll try our best. Could I first of all start with general housekeeping, just to remind you that the fire exits are quite clearly marked on the left-hand side, the two doors here. There's one at the end of the corridor where the lavatories are, and of course, the door where you entered the building. Could I also ask that all mobiles or various devices are switched to silent so that they don't disturb the meeting. Introductions for this morning. I have on my left-hand side, Simon Wood, who's the head of planning, Rebecca Collins, who's the head of development management, Hugh Coggles, who's our tree and countryside officer, Julie Britton from Democratic Services. We've got Becky Harris at the back, who is our usher for today. And we did have Ruth, but Ruth's gone. Oh, she's hiding up that side. Okay, that's fine. Oh, is that gone now? Oh, yeah. You can't hear at all? Okay. Right, let's get. It might have been that I had it pushed away because I thought it might help. Okay, so we'll go to our agenda. Item 1 is the minutes of the last meeting. I gather all members have read them and I have your agreement to sign them off. All in agreement, thank you. Good, Julie. That is my signature. I know it's a bit scrappy, but there. Item 2 is apologies and substitutions, please, Julie.
Thank you, Chairman. I have apologies from Councillor Bowes, Councillor Digan, Councillor Kittle-Morris, and in attendance as their substitutes, we have Councillor Monument and Councillor Marion Chapman-Allen.
Okay. Thank you, two ladies, for coming in today. I know you've, well, Linda's not too bad, but you've had to travel quite a way, Marion, haven't you? So thanks for filling in. Declarations and representations received, I will take them as each item is raised. Item 4, Chairman's announcements. I had a fall at the weekend and landed badly on my side, so I think I've broken or cracked a rib, I'm not sure. Haven't been to the doctors, but Julie keeps moaning at me that I should go. But every now and again it twinges, so if I pull a funny face, it's not because I don't like someone's application or I don't like what a member said, it's just that I've moved and something's gone a bit funny. So if I go like that, you'll know that's what it is. Councillor Clark.
Yeah, can I propose, Chairman, that we don't take a vote on this and this is unanimous, that we all agree that you should go at least and get yourself checked out. Thank you.
Well, that's been raised from the floor. Do I have a seconder for that item? Thank you. Is that now or can I finish the meeting?
Don't make me laugh.
Don't make me laugh because I can't laugh or cough or sleep at the moment. So I've been without sleep for nearly 3 days. Peter's desperate to jump in this chair. So I know it is. We can. I know. Well, we'll have a recording that'll be sent round to members. Okay, so that's just me out of the way. Right, item 5, request to defer applications. Rebecca, no?
None today, thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, keep that on. Item 6, urgent business.
None today, thank you,
We
Chairman.
haven't got, okay. So we now move to item 7, which are local plan update. Over to you, please, Simon.
Thank you very much, Chairman. As members will be aware, we're still out for the call for sites, which will finish on the 20th of May, which I think is Friday next week. So we will at some stage be reporting the findings of that. there were some questions raised by Councillor Atwell at the last meeting in terms of clarification around the dates for some of the key elements of both the single policy review and the local plan update. The local development scheme is published on the website, and at the moment is the definitive and published timeframe. However, we are looking at a timeframe that we have highlighted in meetings, whereby in relation to the partial review, we will be taking a report on that to Cabinet in June 2022, that's June this year, and we will submit that to the Planning Inspectorate after a consultation period from that date, and we would be looking for adoption of that by April next year, that's April 2023. In terms of the local plan update, we will be looking to take a report to Cabinet on that with the final draft document in December 2024, with a submission date following various consultations in April 2025, and looking at adoption at June 2027. We will keep members updated if those dates are subject to any change. What I would also say is that members will be aware that it's the Queen's speech this afternoon. Planning is highlighted to be in there, so that may well bring some changes that we may have to factor in. We'll wait and see what comes out of that. Before I go on to a very quick update on nutrient neutrality, Chairman, are there any questions in relation to the local plan?
Any questions from members on nutrient neutrality at all?
On the local plan.
Oh, sorry, on the local plan. Councillor Atwell.
Yeah, thanks for the updates on. So I think what you're confirming for me is the dates that were set in the Cabinet meeting are the ones that are accurate, not the ones that were given subsequently at the neighbourhood plan meeting. Thank you.
So just in terms of nutrient neutrality, this is still a matter that is causing a lot of upheaval within Norfolk. We are still in a position where we are not able to determine a substantial number of planning applications, especially those related to residential development that provides additional overnight accommodation. There is work being done by officers of all the districts to seek to clarify with Natural England and with Anglia Water the types of development that we can seek to determine, especially outside the catchment area. There's a meeting later on today, which I will be attending, which hopefully will clarify that and allow the districts to go forward with a consistent approach in relation to applications that are non-residential. So that meeting hopefully will clarify that. Our key aim is to ensure that districts are consistent in their approach. I can't say that will be 100% infallible, but the aim is to ensure that we adopt that consistent approach. I think that is important. In terms of mid and long-term solutions, that this subject is, as you know, going to go for some considerable time before we get into a position where normal service effectively will be resumed. And where there are key changes to that, we will come to this committee and discuss them with you, Chairman. Are there any questions?
Councillor Atwell and then Councillor Wilkinson, please.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. There's been much made in the press, I think, at the weekend about the 7 planning authorities getting together to employ a consultant to look at this. Are you able to provide us with details on what this consultant's remit will be and a possible timeline that you've asked them to work to? If I may, Chair, if I get an answer to that, and then I've got a subsequent question.
I can update you in terms of its remit. The timelines will be agreed in discussion with the preferred consultant, but we are looking to try and do that as a relatively short and quick piece of work, but I suspect that that may not be the case, unfortunately. The remit is to look at the 2019 evidence provided by Natural England that underlines their or underpins the approach that they sent to us in the 19th of March. It's to understand the scale of the issue in relation to Norfolk as a county. So the number of units that we're looking to provide as a county, residential units, over the various plan periods, and arising from that, the level of mitigation that will be required for those units, and how that mitigation may be provided. It's a fairly wide brief, but what we're also looking to do is see whether there is an approach that can be taken that will allow us to have a risk-based approach to decision making within the catchment area, and we would want the consultant to look at that as well.
Return, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that. And also Anglian Water, because I think me and you have had this discussion, Simon, about how poor Anglian Water are with their service and general communication with communities at the moment. And certainly in my ward, I've got landowners that have approached me, I've got developers, I've got all sorts of people complaining about the state of the sewage works, sewage treatment, can't cope, etc., flowing into the Wensum. I'm just wondering, and this is probably directed at you, Chairman, would it be possible to get Anglian Water representative to come, and we have a separate meeting as a planning committee with representatives from Anglian Water to discuss various issues that we've got within the district and get some assurance from them about what they're doing to move forward and rectify? Or would you prefer that I do that as a councillor call for action through the Overview and Scrutiny Commission?
That. My understanding is, and I will need to check with the clerk to that meeting, that Anglian Water are coming to the next Overview and Scrutiny meeting on the 26th of March, and we have indicated an agenda to them which covers areas such as Swanton Morley flood issues, but also nutrient neutrality is on that agenda as well. So following my week off last week, I'll be picking that up again with them this week. Just to clarify the position of Anglian Water, whilst I'm still of the view that Anglian Water in terms of senior positions maybe need to come and be a little bit more open and discuss matters with us, certainly at an officer level within the last week to 10 days, Anglian Water have been extremely supportive and are helping us now move things forward in terms of information sharing, etc. I know Becky had quite a useful and helpful meeting with them last week whilst I was away.
Sorry, in the past we have had presentations from various outside organisations, so it wouldn't be a bad idea for a future, but the trouble is not to get them bogged down with individual items. So if we all throw something in from our wards, we could have a very, very long meeting. But if we can get a flavour, an overview and that type of thing, overview and scrutiny, and see how you get on from there, that's fine. Councillor Wilkinson, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Simon, do you expect developers who are affected by nutrient neutrality to leave those areas where they've got to put a report in and inundate areas where nutrient neutrality doesn't exist? Because that's going to impact on local plans and everything else.
Certainly, if we get in a position where a part of the district is relatively free from nutrient neutrality issues, I would expect that there may be pressure from some developers to look at areas where it is easier to develop from a planning point of view. We would still have to assess them against the local plan. I don't think we would be in a position to say that we would be having a free-for-all in order to keep development going. I think that would be a dangerous route. We will also have to have regard to what the 5-year housing land supply position is when we get the report out later this year. But I think it's a really good point.
Okay, any other questions from members? No, terrific. Okay, as they say, moving swiftly on. Item 8, deferred applications. We're starting with 8A, which is TPO 2021 number 15 at Dereham. And our speakers this morning with that are Jason and Gemma Hammond. Oh yeah, if you'd like to come sit on the right-hand side. Thank you. Okay, thanks. And I hand over to you, Hugh.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Apologies to the ones of you who have seen this presentation before, but this is an objection to a TPO on an oak tree in Dereham, a single oak tree. As I explained previously, the intention was to put a preservation order on 2 trees, an ash tree and an oak tree. The ash tree was felled before the order was placed, so just single oak tree remaining, and this is the one that's subject to this appeal today. So this photograph shows the view from the road. The tree in the foreground is the ash tree that has been removed, and T1 is the oak tree which is remaining, and the one that is subject to the TPO at present. Again, this is just another view. This is actually from the access driveway leading past the house to the neighbouring property as well. This is a picture of T1, the oak, which you can see is probably would be described as early mature. This is taken earlier in the year before the tree came into leaf. And this is the picture showing the proximity of the tree to the dwelling. The applicant's main concerns, although obviously they will tell you those in a little while, is apprehension and fear for their safety in the dwelling, as well as structural damage or potential structural damage to the house. One of the reason that this hearing was deferred previously was because there was some supplementary information from the applicant's builder, which is included in your committee pack. I would just say that the applicant has contacted me and was looking to get some additional information from an arboriculturalist who was prepared to do some investigative work to see if tree roots would be adjacent to the building. This would involve excavation using an air spade and various sort of non-invasive methods of exposing roots without cutting them. And my advice to him was, to save the expense, because there will be roots close to the house or up to the house. We don't need an air spade and for the applicant to spend money to be able to do that. So my advice was not to go ahead with that and provide that report. As I said earlier, the tree would be described as early mature. There is some growth potential. There is also scope for pruning works to be undertaken to bring the tree away from the building to reduce the canopy. As far as I'm aware, there's no obvious issues with the tree regarding to its condition, no signs of disease or decay, and nothing which would suggest that the tree is likely to fail at this time. So the option today is to either confirm the order, which would see the tree being retained, probably with some pruning works, or to let the order lapse, which would result in the tree being felled. Thank you.
Yes, if you wish. Oh, have you? Yeah. Okay. Rebecca, please.
Just to say before the applicants come in, we've had an additional letter written in from an Ashley Barnes, who is a manager at Norfolk Trees, arboricultural contractors and consultants. And Ashley states, I have no doubt that the roots are encroaching on the building. However, without full investigation, it wouldn't be possible to determine the long-term effect on the foundations. And obviously Hugh's just covered off in his presentation about that he agrees that there are likely to be roots in very close proximity or underneath the building, but there's no evidence that they are actually encroaching or damaging on the building. And therefore, we're still seeking to confirm the tree preservation order. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you. Jason and Gemma Hammond, you've got 3 minutes, please.
Thank you. The main and most important reason why we're opposing the TPO is due to the safety and well-being of our 2 children. Unfortunately, the location of the tree is less than 3.5 meters away from our children's bedroom. This tree is also having a severe impact on our 7-year-old's mental health and his anxiety. He is scared that the tree will fall and he has nightmares about this happening. When it is windy, he refused to sleep in his bedroom, and should the tree remain, I will have to seek medical help for him. We are all scared that if the tree falls, there is a high risk that it will not only cause major damage to the property, cutting straight through the single-story building, but it would also cause major injury and even possible death to us or our children solely due to the size of the trunk. In addition to this, there are a number of large branches which are overhanging the property, and once again, if these were to fall, it could cause damage both to the property and to our lives. At present, there are no animals living within the tree, and we would like to encourage more wildlife into our garden. So prior to the TPO ever being issued on the tree, our plans were to remove the tree and plant additional trees at the bottom of our garden, which would be far enough away from our property. If I was able to pick this tree up and replant it at the bottom of our garden, then I would. Reading your conclusion report, your only concern, I believe, for the TPO to be in place is because of its amenity. If people wish to go and appreciate trees, there are thousands and thousands of trees in Dereham and multiple places in Norfolk that they can visit, and not our one single tree, which is in a private garden, down a private drive that no members of the public have access to. Literally on the main road leading to our private driveway, there are 14 trees, which 10 of them are oak. You have stated that the tree is young. However, it is already quite large and set to increase in size, which elevates the risk and posed to our lives and the property even further. Mr. Drew, a local builder, and Mr. Barnes, a tree surgeon, has provided a statement of their concerns of the impact that the tree and the roots could cause over the next few years to our building foundations and the drains of the neighbours, of ours and our neighbours. You should all be in possession of that copy now. My job as a police officer for the past 14 years is to protect life and prevent harm, and I will do all I can to achieve this to the best of my ability. We are talking about putting 2 children's life at risk and their mental health over a single tree because of its amenity that the public cannot access. I acknowledge that this tree has been here for several years. However, there is no evidence to say that the tree is safe. I fully believe that the safety and the preservation of my family must be put to the forefront of our concerns. I hope you take the same views and ethics as us as parents.
I would just like to echo the concerns that we've already raised regarding my 7-year-old. He was previously very carefree and outgoing, and this tree has caused him to become very anxious, concerned and frightened when it starts to get windy. He will frequently refer to the fears that he has regarding the tree falling and becomes increasingly worried and upset. I really don't want to put him through taking him to the doctors, causing further undue stress when I believe that this can all be avoided. I ask what you would do if this was your children or your grandchildren.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's open to questions from members. Councillor Clark, Councillor Chapman Allen, and then Councillor Wilkinson, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got a question for our tree officer and also the applicant. Firstly to Hugh, just for the benefit of the public, particularly, if you could confirm that a TPO doesn't prevent any work being done on the tree. That's one particular thing I think would be clarified. And to the applicants or our planning officer, they know, are you able to advise on what the age of the tree is and also the age of the building? I'm just sort of seeing which came first, the chicken or the egg. I'm not suggesting it's a material fact. I'm just seeking clarification. Thank you.
Well, the building would be older than the tree, although the building was formerly a barn, I think I'm correct, and has only become residential in latter years. So the tree was there when the planning consent was granted to convert the barn into a dwelling. With regards to pruning works, the preservation order doesn't prevent pruning works. It just means that the applicant, also it just means that an application has to be made and approved by the council before any works are undertaken. So generally, if there's a reason for the application and it's in accordance with good practice, then the council would generally approve the work, and the whole process can take up to 8 weeks, but we do aim to get it done a lot quicker. Thank you.
Councillor Chapman Allen, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Hugh's just answered one of my questions, but how old do you estimate the tree is, Hugh?
In terms of an oak tree, it's not particularly old. I would estimate we're probably looking at something round about 40, 50 years old, something along those lines. So like I said, it would be described as relatively young or early mature. Obviously, it's an established tree, but it's by no means would be described as a mature oak tree.
Yep, we're not going to chop it down and count the rings, so take that.
Mr. Hammond, if I could ask you a question, please. I note that you purchased the house in July 2021. I presume you noticed the oak tree by the house when you purchased it. Did you have a survey done on the house? And if so, did you not think of asking if the tree could affect the property? And did the surveyor not raise any concerns?
So when we purchased it back in June 2021, there was no TPO placed on that tree. So as far as I was believed, that we could have took that down anyway. There wasn't a TPO placed on there, so I believe I wasn't going to ring up and chase for a TPO on it. As I knew, but the builder, when we brought it, he said there's no TPO on it, so I believed I had the right to remove it then. And then when it comes to the structural side, that was all done by when I purchased the house. Obviously, I don't really want to sort of say that. I personally didn't get one done. I guess there was just one done when the house was built.
Thank you, Mr. Hammond. I think if I'd purchased a house with a substantial tree quite near to it, I think I would have asked for advice on the possibility of that tree affecting the house. It's taken 9 months from July 2021 to raise these concerns, which I notice are from a maintenance firm, not a tree specialist.
I believe I put the application form back in November, December last year. So that was 3-4 months living there. I placed it. Sorry, what was the other question?
I noticed that the advice was from a buildings and maintenance firm, not a tree specialist.
So I got a build around because I've got some movement beside my son's bedroom, because there's movement in there at the moment. I got a build around to ask him what was the movements, the floor is bouncing. So I got a build around to say, do you know what it is? And he seems to think it was down to possibly the roots underneath. So because he made me a statement there and gave me a letter, that's what I've used. Again, I think he's been a builder for about 20-25 years, I understand. But it was just him being a builder, and the movement inside the house he believed could be down to the roots.
Okay.
I understand that, Mr. Hammond. And of course, it's always a concern when one has large trees by old properties. I can remember my mother had an extremely large tree near to her property, but I think, as Hugh has said, the solution is to reduce the canopy with pruning works and not to have a 40 or 50-year-old oak tree destroyed. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Wilkinson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I mean, Mr. Chairman, you'll agree with me that who is our tree specialist, and we're led by his experience, and we understand the trees through his experience to us. But I have concerns about this one. I think it's the closest one to a property we've ever had to look at. And my point is really the concerns what the Mr. Hammond said. Sorry, the applicants have said about the concept of their children worrying when they hear the wind rushing through the tree next to the bedroom. I am concerned about what they're saying about children's well-being and mental health, and I feel uncomfortable that we're asked to make a decision on that tree when we're not going to have to live there next to it with those children in probably a very upsetting state.
Councillor Attwell, please.
Thank you. A question for Hugh. You say this tree is early mature, so it's only going to get bigger. If we move forward a few years, the root structure on this tree is going to get larger, and when the roots, I presume because it's an old barn structure, it hasn't got traditional concrete foundations on the property, generally old barns and that. If that was built a long while ago, I don't know what the age of the property is, they didn't tend to have much in the way of foundations at all. That being said, if the roots do go underneath the property, they tend to, am I right in saying they tend to draw any moisture out, and then you tend to get subsidence where the root structure is in place? I'm trying to establish in my head, we know what you've told us what the situation is now, but what will the situation likely be? Are we, if we confirm the order, are we just storing up problems for a few years down the line in terms of the building structure? So if you could answer that, and then I've got another question. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I suspect the barn's built on very little in the way of foundations. They don't tend to have a lot there. The root structure of the tree will be well established now, and it's not going to, increase dramatically. So what happens with, you're right, the roots don't tend to cause direct damage. The damage occurs with soil shrinking and expanding as the tree takes moisture out of the soil. So you've got two problems. When the tree's taking moisture out of the soil, it shrinks and the house can drop. If the tree is removed without sort of proper investigation work, you can get the opposite effect, which is heave. So the soil expands because it's no longer having the water taken out of the soil. Things lift rather than shrink. It's a bit of a crystal ball kind of thing, because there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of trees close to dwellings that don't cause any issues with subsidence or heave, and it takes quite a lot of investigation to see if the tree is or isn't causing damage. There's seasonal movement as the tree certain times of the year is taking water out of the soil, when it's dormant in the winter it isn't. So if there are cracks in the building, they tend to open and close, and so it generally would take monitoring over a season or a season or two to see if the tree is actually causing damage. So if for example this was a tree that was growing, that had a TPO on it for 20 years, and we had an application to fell it because it was causing structural damage to a building, we would require evidence from an engineer to say yes, the tree is causing damage to the building, conclusive evidence to say it is the tree or isn't the tree. We wouldn't accept a letter from a builder or a maintenance company. It would have to be something that was monitored.
You had a further question?
It's fair to say, would you agree, that if the dwelling was modern construction with modern concrete foundations, concrete floor slab, etc., the likelihood of getting damage from the tree would be significantly less than an older type property that with the barn, which doesn't have modern foundations? And also, I'll ask my last question. In terms of if the tree was to be felled, are we able to insist on any offsetting in terms of new tree planting? Is that something that we can do, being that the applicant has offered to plant additional trees?
If the order isn't confirmed and the tree has failed, then no, we have no powers to ask for a replacement tree. We can only ask for replacement trees following an application to fell a protected tree, not this way round to say, because the tree wouldn't be protected anymore if the order were not to be confirmed. Does that make sense?
So we have an order in place. We're looking to confirm this order today because the applicant's appealing the order. So I'm a bit confused about what you're saying, what you've said there, because if we've got an order in place, the applicant is asking us to take the order away. Why can't we ask for the offset? Could you just, I don't think that was clear.
When a TPO is served, it has to be confirmed within a period of 6 months. So we serve the order. Anyone within a period of time has a chance to object to that order. So what we're looking at today is the objection to the order. It's not an application to fell the tree. It's an application to remove the order entirely. So once the order is removed, if the committee decide today not to confirm the order is effectively null and void and is completely removed. So following that, the applicant can do whatever they like with the tree.
So what you're saying is if we confirm the order today and then the applicant put another application in to remove the tree, then we could say, well, if we decided that, yes, we'd be happy for the tree to be removed, we could ask for additional trees. This is just nuts. This is bureaucracy gone wrong here. But that's effectively what you're saying to me, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a statutory progress that's sort of dictated by the Town and Country Planning Act. It's not by Breckland Council. It's the way that, you know, it's what we have to work to. What I would say is, if the way things stand at the moment, if the order was confirmed and the applicant put an application in to fell the tree, unless there was any other overriding supporting evidence, it's likely that the council would refuse the application. The applicant then has the opportunity to appeal to the Secretary of State, the Planning Inspectorate, and the decision is taken away from the council.
So has the applicant made any offer in writing at this time as to exactly what tree planting they would put in lieu of this existing oak tree? Because I've heard at the beginning here that they've said that they would plant additional trees. So what have we had? Have we had anything in writing to that effect?
Can I just butt in? I know they've made the offer to replant trees, but you cannot take that into consideration in the determination of this order because we can't secure it in any way. So if the order isn't confirmed today, unfortunately, you will be taking the applicant's word for it, and there's no way the council can secure the planting of trees. So I would say, members, that you take that away from your determination of this confirmation of the order today.
Councillor Kybird, please.
Thank you, Chairman. We've been told that there are 15 other trees in the vicinity. Do any of those have TPOs, and why is this particular tree has this very high amenity value?
This tree doesn't have any higher amenity value than the other adjacent oak trees in the vicinity. What we do as a council, well, no councils have someone that drives around looking at trees thinking, well, that's a nice tree, we'll put a protection order on it. It generally comes about when there's a threat to the tree. So the reason why this tree was, a preservation order was put on this tree was because the council were told that the applicant had booked someone and was intending to cut the tree down. So I had to go and have a look at the tree following this notification that the tree was going to be cut down. What I then do is I go out to have the site, make an assessment of the tree and see if the tree is suitable, if it's good enough to warrant the protection of a defendable TPO. So in this instance, we knew the tree was going to be cut down. I went and looked. My assessment was that the tree was good enough to be protected. So my recommendation to the council was then that we look at protecting the tree, and the council agreed and the order was served.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gilbert, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I must say I'm really struggling with this one. It's one of those 4951. And I think what we're looking at is the right tree in the wrong place. It's a lovely tree, but personally, I wouldn't want it that close to my building. But so it's a struggle. You know, I can see why you think the tree needs protecting. I can also see why you want it removed. Struggling with it.
Councillor Monument, please.
I can see and understand from all that's been said that the tree itself is as sound as a tree can be, that's 40 years old and has got its roots comfortably into the ground, possibly under the corner of the barn, admittedly, of the dwelling there. But what I can't see at the moment, from what's been said, is where it has public amenity. In itself, it's a good tree, but is it really of enough value from the point of view of other people's view for it to need to be preserved when it's that close to a building down a private drive? Please.
The problem we have as a local authority is we're not given a definition of amenity, and the advice that there just isn't one in terms of planning, nothing definitive. So the advice when looking at TPOs is the tree viewable or visible from a public place? So if and of course this tree is visible from the road going past the house, you can clearly see it if you're going down the road. Of course, it's not as visible as a tree that may be in Dereham High Street, but that's something that would have to be considered, whether the members think removing the tree would have a negative impact on the landscape or whether it would be barely noticeable. I mean, I could put the photographs up again if that helps you to see the tree. It's pardon? Oh, it's about 20 meters from the road.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want the photos on, Linda? Or? Yes. While Madonna. Oh. Councillor Attwell.
Yeah, question for Mr. Hammond, because you're a policeman, right? So you're going to give me an honest answer here. Excellent. Look, you're on film. So you've obviously given some thought with your comments earlier on about tree planting at the other end of your garden. Have you given any considerations to what exactly you would like to plant down there? Got plans to plant?
So I'll be honest, I was open to what suggestions would be made. Obviously, we did have an idea of planting down the bottom of our garden 5 trees, but we didn't know which one. We didn't know if you would say, well, we want 5 oak trees or 5 ash trees or something. So we was open to not negotiation, but we was open to your comments on what you recommended.
But
there is no, as you've been told, there's no procedure in place for that.
No, I'm asking an honest policeman for an honest answer, and that's all I want. So if am I correct in saying if this tree comes down, you're giving me an undertaking, it's only me asking here, you're giving me an undertaking that you would offset and you would plant additional trees at the bottom of the garden, and you would take advice on what's the best trees to be planted down there? Because I'll check.
Good.
Good.
And I'd like to get out a jail-free card if you don't, if you're handing goodies out. Okay. Rebecca, please.
Members, just to be really clear, despite the applicant, the owner's occupation, etc., and I've got no qualms that he wouldn't tell the truth in this, but you cannot take that into the consideration in the determination of this application, because there is no way the local authority can secure the planting of other trees either in this gentleman's garden or elsewhere, and we would be unable to secure the planting of sufficient replacement trees. So in terms of whether you decide to confirm the order or not today, you cannot take that into consideration in your determination. You need to look at the photos in front of you and look at the amenity value of that tree. and say whether it is, in your opinion, it is sufficient in amenity terms to confirm the order and will confirm the TPO. With regards to the tree itself, you've already heard today that the gentleman with his concerns about his building and the structure, those can be supported with relevant information in terms of a report from an engineer to show if at all that tree is likely to in the future damage the structural capacity of that building, or in from a tree surgeon with regards to the health and longevity of the tree. With that information and a application to either do works to or fell the TPO, we would take that into consideration in determination. In the future, if that tree causes structural damage to the building, then obviously we will look favourably on an application to do works to that tree or fell that building. The serving of a TPO order.
Fell the building.
Fell the building. Apologies. Obviously, the serving of a TPO order today does not prevent works from being done to that tree. And you can see from our tree officer's report, who is your expert in this matter for the council, that he proposes that some works to that tree will help with the experience they've got at the moment in terms of their residential building. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, yes, I'll take these last two questions from Councillor Chapman Allen.
I
and
know you're
Councillor
trying
Martin.
to wind up, Chairman. To me, I'm afraid that this is the same old chestnut once again. I bought the house, Acorns, and oh, there's a tree. What a nuisance. And I noted what Hugh said about the removal of the tree could possibly cause structural damage to the house, something to do with moisture being not taken away and things like that. So I would prefer to see it confirmed. And if a structural engineer is brought in to examine things in a year's time, the applicant could come back to committee and say, this is the structural engineer's report. We want the TPO removed. Thank you, Chairman.
No, thank you. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Definitely the conversion of the barn would have shallow footings. I'm concerned that the tree will keep development and the roots will encroach towards the property. Because as you know, right, I've been a builder all my life, and when we've been with the local authorities or whatever near a tree, we have to take down footings, and I'm talking about when they dig them out in about probably 20, 30 years time. We've been down 3 meters, fill them with concrete, and then, you know, the trees are still there, all right, but, you know, I do feel for Mr. and Mrs. Hammond and the safety of the children, all right, but I could go on because I know in Attleborough there's another big tree and it's lifting all the slabs now at the back.
You said you could go on.
Yeah, well, I would
you haven't asked if you could go on.
Well, anyway.
So thank you. I'll accept that. Thank you. I'm not going to take you, Harry, because I want to wind this up. Otherwise, we'll be here all afternoon. I'm going to take Councillor Monument for one reason. Only she winked as she put her hand up. Councillor Monument, then we'll go to the vote, please.
I find this a very difficult decision to make, but if we're assured that the tree has amenity, it's difficult for us to refuse simply because, and I have every sympathy with you, because I have a grandson who has had anxiety issues for about the last 10 years. And if it's any assurance to you, he's now growing out of it at 19. But I don't feel that we can really do this when you've bought the property, the tree was there. May I suggest, though, that you involve the child in everything to do with that tree and teach him about oak trees and the fact that even though they may wave a lot, the branches don't drop off, and get him involved in the fact that it's going to be pruned back for his benefit. Because if we confirm this order and you want to stay there, then help him to understand that it's not as dangerous as he thinks. For this, the reason I'm saying this is because behind all of that, I still think we ought to confirm this order, because If we don't, we can hope that trees will be put at the bottom of the garden. But if you decide to move out for another reason, somebody will come and chop those down as well. We need an order.
Thank you. Okay, we're wandering away from questions into various other fields, and Councillor Atwell had another question, but I'm not going to take it, even though he did wink. I'm going to call a halt to this and ask for you to make a decision on this. So with regards to TPO 2021 number 15 in Dereham, your officer's recommendation is that we approve the order. Could I have a show of hands for approving the order? 4, and those against the order? 6. So from the floor, please, your recommendation is to refuse this order, and could I have someone to put that forward? Councillor Wilkinson, and a seconder.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Kyber, sorry, you wish to speak on it as well?
Yeah, I was just going to say, obviously, we've refused the order. We do take on board what our tree officer has said, but at the end of the day, we're thinking of health and the mental health and well-being of the family who are having to live with it.
Yeah. Yeah, planning reason.
Well, it's going to be disruptive.
I'll take Councillor Atwell's for planning reason, please.
Could I suggest, Chairman, that we don't confirm the order because we don't feel that there's sufficient amenity value to the tree, given its location.
Okay, we're fine with that. Okay, so to not confirm the order, could I have a show of hands to not confirm the order? I think we've gone up 1, have we? 7, and those against? 3, 7, 3. Okay. That was the decision. If you understood that, is that we're not confirming the order. Okay, terrific. Thank you for your time as well. I know you've been a couple of times. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving swiftly on to Colkirk, 3PL 2022-10132, a variation. I'm getting a whistle. That's me. I have Councillor Jeanette Paul of Colkirk Parish Council and David Winch, who is the applicant. If you'd like to come and sit on the right-hand side, please. Councillor Paul, could I ask you, are you chairman, vice chairman, or just a councillor? Just a councillor, that's fine, as long as we know. Okay, that's fine, thank you. Few people suffering from cold. Can we turn the aircon down at all, or no? You don't know. Okay. I daren't touch. I should probably break it the way my day is going. Oh, we mustn't touch it apparently. Sorry.
It's freezing.
It's cold apparently. That'll take me a quarter of an hour to walk over to there anyway.
Did you resend the link?
Get it up. If not, we're going to have to draw pictures. Crayons at the ready. Who is unaware? Who knows? Who is unaware? Who hasn't seen the Colkirk presentation? You haven't seen it, Councillor Monument. Okay, it's not for your favour. It's just that I can't have a vote or anything else if you haven't seen the previous presentation, because it's back to us again. Members have seen this. Oh, Councillor Chapman Allen hasn't seen it either. So there's definitely 2 members. Yeah, go on in. 5-minute break. That's all. Thank you. Quick 5-minute toilet break while we're trying to get this presentation. Go on then, Helen. We're waiting for you and for Councillor Monument. Sorry, guys. Just a brief. I'm not. Okay, I'll wait for my 2 members to come back into the room and then we can proceed. Well done, ladies. You do. Dancing around the handbags. Okay. Over to you then, Rebecca, for the presentation.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies about the delay. So this is an application at Colkirk for land off Wistonset Road. It is a variation of condition application. That's condition 22 of planning permission that was already granted for 21 dwellings in this location. So the application is to vary the wording of condition 22. Condition 22 requires highways works to take place on the public highway prior to development commencing above slab level on plot 8 only. This variation of condition application, as per your report, asks to vary that trigger to remove the requirement to stop at the slab level of plot 8 and allow them to build out to slab level on all plots across the development. So just for members' benefit, this is the site and the wider context. It's the site just to the southern part of your screen, the large green field surrounded by hedgerows to the east of Wistonset Road. So here is the location plan that's submitted with the application. This clearly shows the application site outlined in red, like I say, at the southernmost element of your screen. And then as you can see from the red line plan, it includes land on the opposite side of Wistonset Road, leading up into Colkirk. When members granted planning permission at planning committee, the red line was set as such so that there were works that could be done to the highway to include the local pavement widths to allow access further up into Colkirk, or improved access further up into Colkirk. And planning permission was granted on that basis. Condition 22 requires the details of those works to be submitted and approved. So just for members' benefit, this is the approved layout of the scheme. This is already approved and not the subject of variation. So there's no amendments to the design or layout as proposed with this application, only to amend the trigger of condition 22, as I've already explained. So the application was deferred from the last planning committee on the grounds that members wanted us to go away and have some conversations with the Highways Authority. So the applicant has applied to discharge condition 22 on their previous variation application. Those details are with the Highways Authority at Norfolk County Council awaiting discharge. Norfolk County Council are unable to discharge those conditions at the minute because they're awaiting the final approval of the section 278. Section 278 is an application that you make to the Highways Authority to do works on highways land. It is independent of the Planning Act and not a material planning consideration for today. However, the Highways Authority refrain from agreeing to discharge conditions, planning conditions, until applicants such as these today have gone through the section 278 process. So members deferred the application from committee last time. If they remember, there was an objection from the Highways Authority. They deferred the application. The objection from the Highways Authority was that the works for the 278 couldn't be completed, or they didn't know that the works for the 278 could be completed. As you've set out at the previous committee, that's not a material consideration in terms of the planning application, that the works on the 278 hadn't been considered. But you did ask us to go away and meet with the Highways Authority and discuss the situation with them. We have done that straight after the meeting. We've met from the Highways Authority. They've confirmed that the delays to the section 278 weren't because that they were concerned about the 278 or that the works couldn't be completed. The delays simply were that this 278 hadn't been looked at. They are significantly behind with applications for 278 works due to the sheer volume of applications that they've had, and they hadn't yet looked at the application. They have subsequently looked at the application, and members will note from your supplementary report that the 278 process has been started. The 278 process requires some amendments to the discharge of condition application that the applicants are working on and in the process of submitting. However, importantly, for this application to vary the condition, you'll note that the Highways Authority have said that they cannot sustain an objection to the variation of this condition on the basis of highway safety, which is your planning material consideration, and therefore wouldn't prevent the development from going up to slab level on all plots, not just stopping it at plot 8 as the current condition 22 does do. And that is the Highways comments are set out verbatim in your supplementary report, members. You'll note from the officer report that Colkirk, I got that wrong. Parish Council have raised concerns with the application process, and they're sat out in the officer report. Specifically, they're concerned that the Highways Authority objected to the application and felt that it shouldn't be approved on that basis. Obviously, Colkirk Parish Council are here today, so they can speak to themselves, but obviously we now have a different comment from the Highways Authority, which is no objection. With regards to the tree works that the Parish Council comment, we set this out in the earlier committee, but the tree works that have done on site are in accordance with the approved plans and the approved plans that have now been approved, and there is no objections from our tree officer. So like I say, the plan in front of you, this is the approved scheme that you've already approved at planning committee for the dwellings on this site. There's no change to the layout or the design of dwellings. It is owing to vary that trigger and that condition. I don't know why I'm having so many difficulties speaking today, apology members. And I've just got some site photos. These are some up-to-date photos for you of the application site. So we're just spanning across the application site. So this is the view back towards Colkirk to the north. And then we're spanning around the application site. You can see it's highly hedged in trees around the perimeter of the application site, but currently is a green open site previously used for grazing. I'm just spanning around the site. And again, and this is back towards Colkirk to the north. And then we've got some pictures of Wissenset Road for you, just to show on the left-hand side, that is the existing highway verge, where the red line covers to create a pedestrian walkway so you can walk into Colkirk, not on the right-hand side, which is the location of the site. And then this is going to the south along Wissenset Road. And this is the bend on Wissenset Road, just on the corner of the site, on the corner edge of the site. And the access is just set back from this corner. Members will obviously note that they've already approved the access in this location under the previous variation. And this isn't a variation to the access point, it is a variation to the trigger of the condition and the layout. So I'm just going to stop sharing because I want to read, if the chairman will allow me. So we are seeking to approve the variation to the trigger to change it so that they are allowed to complete all development up to slab level on all plots. But we are also seeking delegation with regards to the matter of nutrient neutrality. And since the previous committee in the officer report, we've updated our wording with that delegation. So if members will allow me, I'd just like to read that out, please. So we're seeking delegation. So the application has potential to cause adverse impacts with regards to nutrient pollution, the exact implications and potential mitigations of which are yet to be assessed. Accordingly, officers are requesting delegated authority to fully consider the issue of nutrient pollution and this application's impacts on the integrity of the special areas of conservation. Delegated authority is also sought for officers as relevant either to impose suitable conditions in respect of potential nutrient pollution or to refuse planning permission if, after full consideration by officers, they are of the opinion that due to nutrient pollution, the integrity of the special areas of conservation is not satisfactorily secured. So we recommend approval to vary the trigger on that condition, subject to that delegation, specifically regard to nutrient neutrality. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Jeanette Paul, please, of Colkirk Parish Council. You have 3 minutes, please.
Well, good morning, Chairman and members of the Planning Committee. As you've heard, my name is Jeanette Paul and member of the council. Okay. Oh, I'm used to doing things standing up, sorry. I'm from Colkirk Parish Council. And I'm speaking today regarding the planning permission and the variation concerning the condition number 22, enabling the works to continue up to slab level on all plots and the introduction to nutrient neutrality. I think I've got what you've got. My comments reflect not only the parish council's view, but also the views of the vast majority of the village. While we appreciate that planning has already been granted subject to various conditions imposed by the council, the safety aspect of the Wissenset Road has also always been a serious concern. I would like to remind you this application was first consulted in 2017. The most recent communication we have has stated that in order to construct parts of the scheme, hedges planted along the highway boundary and in third-party ownership will need to be removed, and that appropriate accommodation works will need to be agreed with all appropriate third parties prior to the technical approval of the highway works being granted. In light of this, surely the most sensible decision is to wait until all off-site highway works has been approved and complete the Section 278 agreement, which is what would happen in most normal situations. And as we're all now aware, Colkirk is in the catchment area for nutrient neutrality, where the advice from Natural England is development can only proceed if it's nutrient neutral. And as quoted in your notes, this site has the potential to cause adverse impacts with regard to nutrient pollution, the exact implications of which and potential mitigation are not yet agreed. We're aware there are various projects put on hold because of this new directive. In summary, with all this in mind, we feel it imperative that there is a delay until A, full technical approval from highways, and B, there's a full appropriate assessment regards to nutrient neutrality on this site. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've got David Winch, please, who's the applicant. 3 minutes, sir. Oh, you need to switch on.
Thank you.
Chairman, thank you, members of the committee.
you know, I've been here before. This application has not changed since you approved it 3 years ago. The design hasn't changed. The design of the highways haven't changed. We applied in to Norfolk for our 278 approval under the existing conditions on the 17th of May 2021. Just about to bite its first birthday cake. This development is ready to take place. The footpath and the highway improvements along the road are for the betterment of the village. It connects the centre of the village to the playing fields and the allotments. It's on the other side of the road from my development. Yes, we will add additional footfall from our new residents going to the school.
Sorry to stop you. Can you just take your microphone nearer to you, please?
As I say, the improvements are for the benefit of the village and the population. Yes, we add some additional footfall, but the majority of users of this footpath will be the community. The application we've made to vary the condition, as I think the officers will confirm, brings the condition into line with Norfolk's standard conditions for development, that the works are approved prior to reaching slab stage and are implemented prior to completion. That is not changing. We are just keen to get on and deliver the new houses for the community in Brecon.
Thank you. It's open to questions from members. I've got Councillor Attawell and then Councillor Crane. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Got a question for Rebecca, and when I get that answer, there'll be a follow-up. Rebecca, based on this today, are you sitting there and you guaranteeing to this committee that this footpath is going to get constructed?
There is a condition on the planning permission which requires the footpath. The actual technical details of how that footpath is laid out and constructed is a matter for the Highways Authority. But if the footpath was to be removed from the application, they'd need to vary a further condition, which would be a consideration of a different planning application.
Coming back.
Chairman, we're no further forward than we were last month. No, we're not. The reason for this is, quite clearly it says here in the highway comments that at the moment there's still conversations being had with third parties regarding this footpath. The concern I have with this is it's a Breckland Bridge project. When this came to committee, I think in 2019, against my better judgment, this was approved, but nevertheless it was approved against Highways' objection, because Highways said that they couldn't make the footpath work. So Highways objected, but this committee overruled Highways for the approval. So we've now got a situation where we've given permission for the application. Highways had told us originally they think there's going to be problems getting the footpath constructed, but nevertheless we've gone ahead. And so on the basis that the footpath forms part of the application, because that was all in the original permission. So at the moment, we don't have a 278 signed off, knowing that those third parties are going to agree to give up some of their land to construct this footpath, and there's various hedges, etc., have got to come out. And that was the point I was trying to make last month, that for the people of Colkirk, I think they've accepted that planning permission has been granted, but they fully expect this footpath to be constructed. And as we sit here at the moment, you cannot guarantee to me, this committee, or the people of Colkirk that that footpath will ever happen. And if we get these foundations built, hear what you're saying, you could let it go up to slab level. We could end up with a situation where further down the line, this development, mission creep, gets built, and then suddenly we have no footpath because we can't make it work. And from the comments, the additional comments we had in the supplemental, Highways aren't saying to us this is definitely going to happen. They're saying that they're still in consultation with third parties to try and obtain third party agreement in order for them to construct the footpath. That's my concern, and the optics of it, because it's a Breckland Bridge project. We did object, we did overrule highway objections originally. And I think for the people of Colkirk, that's why at the last meeting, I said, and I will be saying it again here in my vote, we should be waiting until that 278 is agreed, because you can't tell me here now that that's actually going to get built.
Rebecca?
Yeah, so the 278 process is an iterative process. So basically, the highways engineers have gone back to the applicants and said, we've got concerns that if you build out the scheme you've put in front of us, then that will affect private hedgerows. So they've gone back to the applicants to say, you need to demonstrate to us how your scheme to implement this footway won't damage hedgerows, or amend your scheme to implement that footway. And that one of the options could be to have a narrower footway, but it will be up to the applicants to demonstrate that they can do those works in the highway. What the Highways Authority aren't saying is these are concerns, and this you won't be able to deliver the footway. What they've said is these are our concerns, and you as the applicants need to demonstrate to us that it can be done. And one of those options is to have third-party agreements, which may or may not be forthcoming. We don't know the answer to that. The 278 process isn't a material consideration in the determination of your application today, and neither is whether the footpath is delivered or not, because the application requires, by condition, the footpath to be delivered. If the footpath wasn't be delivered, that would be the subject of a new planning application. And at that stage, you can make your assessment about whether that is integral to planning permission being granted in this location. What you need to consider today is whether allowing the applicants to build the development up to slab level on all plots would have an impact on highway safety. And your Highways Authority colleagues are saying they can't have sustained a rejection on those grounds. So that means that the traffic coming in to build the plots up to slab level wouldn't have an impact on highway safety. And therefore, that is your material consideration today about whether you choose to vary that condition or not.
Councillor Crane, please.
Rebecca had kindly answered my question within that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other members wishing to speak? Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, as we've read in the report now, come from Highways, they are not objecting to the developer actually building up to slab level. They quote at their risk. And the third party, they're saying about they're having issues with the third party ownerships of removing hedge. After if we allow up to slab level building, could a Grampian condition be put on the third party to be required that land before any more building went ahead? Would that sort of give insurance to the parish council?
I'm just going to look up the existing wording of the existing condition, because that is already a Grampian condition requiring that footway to be delivered. We can't have a condition which requires third parties to give their land over for this development. If that was required as part of the application, that would need to be through a Section 106 agreement that those third parties sign up to. But we've already got a Grampian condition that requires the delivery of the footway. What that footway looks like will be dealt with through that discharge of condition, and members approved that at planning committee previously, and that is your benchmark, members, and that is a material consideration that you thought that condition was sufficient to deal with this matter at a later stage, knowing full well that the Highways had concerns at that time about the width of that footpath and what it would look like. So that is your baseline, members, because that is a planning permission we've already granted at this planning committee.
Any other members wishing to ask questions? No. Are you looking at what? Do you want me to take the vote?
Is whether members want me to clarify the condition or not.
Would you like the condition clarified? Yes.
Sorry. Oh, it is condition 20. Yeah, sorry.
It is condition 22, obviously, which requires the footpath to be delivered, the details of which are out on a discharge condition application at this time. Apologies.
Okay, thank you. Okay, members, we're going to take the vote on this for Colkirk 3PL 2022 0132, with regards to variation, your officer's recommendation is that we approve that variation. Could I have a show of hands, please? 5, 6, and there was against 6, 3. 6, 3. Okay, and that's approved. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, members, we move on to item 10, which is applications determined by the Executive Director of Place. They are there for your information. And item 11 are the appeals, again there for your information. Okay, thank you very much. So with that, I close the meeting. I don't have a knocker today, but
Yeah.
no, not to worry. I don't like them anyway. So we'll just wait for the thing to stop.